Shatarine. Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shiva Shri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai. So we'll go to page 1, and at the top, Om Jnana Timirandasya
Om Ajnana
Jnananjana Shalakaya
Jnananjana Shalakaya
Chakshurunmilitam Yena
Chakshur Unmilitam Yena
Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha.
Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha.
I was born in the darkest ignorance,
I was born in the darkest ignorance,
and my spiritual master opened my eyes
and my spiritual master opened my eyes
with the torch of knowledge.
with the torch of knowledge.
I offer my respectful obeisance unto him.
I offer my respectful obeisance unto him.
Hare Krishna. We're going to zip over to chapter 9, the most confidential knowledge. And I believe we're doing verse 27, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Yes.
Maharaj.
I'll begin then. I just want to commend everybody for their questions and their deliberations, especially the last couple of weeks. We had a little technical hiccup there, but hopefully that problem's solved. But you asked a lot of good questions. I know we're going a little slower than when we initially started, but that's okay. We want this to go organically. Okay, so I'm going to start. Yat karashi yada ashnasi, yash johoshi dadasi yat tapasyasi kaunteya, tat kurushva mad arpanam. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer, give away, and whatever austerities you perform, do that, O son of Kunti, as an offering to me. Hare Krishna. This is a good one to learn. And so I think we can deal with the purport on this. Thus, it is the duty of everyone to mold his or her life in such a way that they will not forget Krishna in any circumstance. Everyone has to work for maintenance of the body and soul together. And Krishna recommends herein that one should work for him. Everyone has to eat something to live. Therefore, one should accept the remnants of foodstuffs offered to Krishna. Any civilized person has to perform some religious, ritualistic ceremonies. Therefore, Krishna recommends, do it for me. And this is called archana. Everyone has a tendency to give something in charity. Krishna says, give it to me. And this means that all surplus money accumulated should be utilized in furthering the Krishna consciousness movement. Nowadays, people are very much inclined to the meditational process, which is not practical in this age. But if anyone practices meditating on Krishna 24 hours a day by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra round his beads, he is surely the greatest meditator and the greatest yogi, as substantiated by the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. And so Prabhupada is referring to the last verse of chapter 6, saying that of all yogis, the person who's 24/7 engaged in thoughts of Krishna, that person is the best of all yogis. So it's just a matter of keeping Krishna in the back of your mind. And sometimes examples are given, like in the Bhagavad Gita, there's an example of the tortoise has laid her eggs, and she's thinking about her eggs, even while she's gone, looking for food. And she's just got that in her mind. My eggs, I'm going to go back to my eggs. Doesn't matter what it is. She's thinking about her eggs, meditating on them. And so in the same way, Krishna's always there. Have you ever cooked something on the stove, like a 4-burner range, and you've got several things on the go? And there's one that maybe let's give an Italian prep, you're using tomatoes. You really got to cook it down, So you cook it down, cook it down, cook it down, 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 cook it down, cook it down, cook it down, down, down. So, and you just have to keep your head on that. You have to keep reminding yourself, I've got everything going on here and everything's swiftly being prepared. Put it aside. But I have to keep my eyes on those tomatoes, I have to make sure that they're going to be down to a puree or whatever you call it, something really nice, So it's like that, always keeping it in mind. And when Prabhupada was in, I believe this happened in Montreal, he was needing to get his visa extended. So he went to, he had to get his visa extended for the US. So he came to Canada and he went to an official place, like what do I call it? They call it customs. And anyway, so there was one woman there and the lady just asked him, now how do you always keep focused? How do you keep with all the things that have to be done? How is it possible to keep your mind fixed, And Prabhupada's answer was, well, just like some lady, she has so many responsibilities with her children, with her husband, with the community, and with her work, but she never forgets, she doesn't neglect to put her hair in a bun, and this was the lady, she actually had her hair done, probably in a French bun, because it was, it's Montreal. So you just use that example. You just remind, even though so many things have to be kept tossed in the air that require your attention, you always remember that there's one item that you won't forget. It might seem insignificant, but it's, so that thing is Krishna. We should never lose sight of him. He's always got to be there. And the challenge is that because he's ethereal, he seems sometimes abstract to us, but he is actually existing, and we have enough testimony to believe that Krishna is watching out for us through little miracles that come out through the day. So you just have to keep him in mind. That's all. That's all that's required. The mind is always, radaring all over what can I savor right now? What is there of interest? Like you're always constantly looking, And maybe that's not so necessary because Krishna's always there to look out for you. The essence of this verse is to keep Krishna in mind. And whatever you're doing, do it as an offering unto him. And it's a nice verse to recall. Again, as we mentioned last week, we're smack in the middle of the Bhagavad Gita. There's got to be some pearls here, There's got to be some diamonds here in the middle. And some of these shlokas are highlighting bhakti, devotion, which is really such a simple thing. Any thoughts?
I have a question.
Yes.
In that translation, is there a possibility that people can misuse the meaning of the word whatever?
Yes, you mean like whatever you do, like say, if let's say you're robbing a bank, right? Whatever you do, do it for Krishna. I'm gonna rob the bank for Krishna. I'll build a temple with it. Well, there has to be some parameters. There has to be some limitations. It's assumed that you're thinking in the mode of goodness and functioning like that. Yeah. Whatever you do, especially the first phrase, right? Whatever you do. I mean, I know of one lady. She was a society woman. She was a prostitute, and the devotees used to. She made connections with the devotees, the brahmacharis. Not that they became her customers. This is on the West Coast many years ago, and she loved Krishna consciousness. She loved what was in the books. I don't know whatever happened to her, but she was donating to the devotees. So her funds that she was collecting, she gave some of it to Krishna consciousness. So in one sense, she was slowly becoming purified. I don't know much more about it. Sometimes people are in those kind of predicaments. They don't want to be there. They want to get out, but it's their livelihood and they're on a roll. They're on a routine, I mean, I don't know if that's kind of a crude example, but instead of spending the money totally on just selfish reasons, she gave some of it to Krishna, for the books and things like that. So she was making steps towards progress, spiritual progress. What do you think about that, Louise?
I think it's good. It's better than not giving anything, no matter what she was doing, but she was still thinking of God, of Krishna, and can't be condemned. I mean,
right?
Krishna
She's
says,
trying.
whenever you do, give some of your truth to me. There was this one devotee who was in a war, I think Iraq, and there was an article in Back to Godhead some years ago, how he was giving prasadam to soldiers, and I think he did Bhagavad Gita readings. So he was in a war, and he connected it with Krishna.
Yes, I know who you're talking about. I got to know that Prabhu very well. Yeah, he had a hard life, but he was making the best of it. Can you all hear me? I just put my headphones on.
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay.
Can I chime in here too?
Can you chime in?
Can I chime in? Ding dong. So just on what you're saying, I'm just working here, but listening at the same time. And I'm thinking about, so many examples, throughout history of prostitutes, associating with holy people. And so the examples are there of kindness and love and acceptance and non-judgment. And, we have to look at it, in my opinion anyways, on the eternal platform, because our job is to give people a good taste of Krishna consciousness, because that way they'll be favorable in their spirit, whether in this life or the next, will have that feeling inside of attraction. And when we judge other people too harshly for what they do with their own lives, depending on, of course, there's parameters of who you're hurting and what have you, but nevertheless, that kindness should be extended in order to really come from that place of compassion. That's just my 2 bits.
Yes, Nita Priya, thank you very much. We did give the example of Haridas Thakur, who was visited by a prostitute.
We can't hear you, Maharaj.
There seems to be some Wi-Fi issue at the temple.
Yeah,
They had it last week also.
So Maharaj did find out the source of this issue, And he even told the temple management about it.
Okay. Okay, great. So
Should I try calling on the temple number to see? I'll just
yeah,
inform you.
you can mute yourself and call. In the
Yeah.
meantime, Nitai Priya, could you just do a small kirtan? Sankalpa Mataji, go ahead. Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna,
Krishna
Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare,
Hare
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Rama,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama, Rama Rama, Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama,
Hare
Rama
Rama,
Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Hare
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna,
Hare
Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
Hare Krishna. Hare
Maharaj is joining shortly. Just spoke with him.
All right, continue with the chanting, please, Uncle Maharaj.
Krishna Krishna, Hare
Krishna.
Hare Rama,
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Rama. Hare Rama. Hare Krishna. Hare Rama. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare
Hare Rama.
Krishna Krishna, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
Hare Hare. Hare Rama. Hare Rama.
Thank you very much, Hare Krishna. Thanks for your patience. Again, I don't know what to say. We were talking about, everyone can hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, Bhakti, Andy, it's nice to see you again. We were speaking.
Oops, come on.
Oh Lord.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Is it because I've just recently joined the call? Am I bringing bad things?
Oh, no, no.
I think his phone just isn't equipped to handle all of the because many of the Wi-Fi issues, like Sartak was saying, got resolved. There was a couple things that were happening, but I think Maharaj's phone is really full. Sartak, I'm not sure when you are planning to visit Maharaj again, but I was hoping that maybe we could walk through his phone and just delete some stuff, because he does a lot of downloading and he can't find his downloads file. So I think his phone is really maxed out.
Okay.
So
Is
maybe
it
that's
what to do with the phone, Mataji? Because once or twice when I'd been to the temple, I did have issues with the Wi-Fi as well, but that was long back. That was before my
Right,
use got
right.
into it.
Yeah. He needs to get his phone cleared out anyways, but in any case, I'm not sure what to do about this. It would be nice if
Sure.
Maharaj had a tablet or something for
Okay.
Zoom calls and things.
Tablet or maybe a laptop kind of thing.
All right.
Yeah.
Maharaj is here. Maybe Maharaj, can you unmute yourself, please?
Okay, I'm here. So we were talking about Haridas Thakur and how he was visited by a prostitute. And he did not reject her. In fact, he said, I just have some japa to do, some chanting to do. And then after that, we can take care of your wishes, your desires. So that went on for more than 1 day, 2 days. I believe it was the third day. She just kind of gave up, said, what's the use here, you know? It's kind of like a little trick. He's just getting me hooked on the japa, the chanting. So she started chanting and she liked it and she felt really good about it and made a major turn in her life and decided to become a Vaishnavi. She even shaved her head, which usually women don't do. Male monks do that, but she decided to actually make a strong statement. So he was not judgmental. He didn't spit at her. He didn't reject her, but he accepted her. And the example was there of Jesus as well. Mary Magdalene came and she wanted to be part of the circle. She kind of liked what this man was talking about. He had good messages. He seemed to be different from the other men she met. And it seemed like a lot of people were using her. And they were ready to stone her. That was a common thing to do in the Middle East. They didn't have guns then, but they had lots of rocks. And it's got nothing to do with rock and roll. But he accepted her. He didn't judge her as a loose woman. You know, he just saw that here is a person trying to do good. You know, coming into his inner circle, and so he just saw her differently. You know, it's a funny thing that customers to prostitutes oftentimes have that kind of attitude. Oh, here's somebody who's low class, but then when it comes to their urges, then here's a queen or something like that. So, anyways, it's we're just simply talking about not being so judgmental and giving everyone a chance, even if they're coming from a lowly or humble background. Right? That's your issue, isn't it, Nitai Priya?
Oh yes, just always making sure to give people a good taste of Krishna consciousness wherever they're from. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. So should we move on? Anybody else? Go ahead.
A quick thing regarding that note. In the Sri Krishna Karnamrita, Bilvamangala Thakur, he offers his respect to Chintamani. As you know, Chintamani was a prostitute, but he takes her as a guru. So we can even exaggerate and saying that, can a prostitute be a guru? Seems like yes, because Bilvamangala accepted her as a guru.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he wrote one of the most important book in Vaishnava philosophy, Krishna Karnamrita, and he remembers her as his inspiration. That's all.
Right. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Good points. Good points. Good. Yeah. It's an extraordinary story. And it's not that if you're playing the role of guru, you should now take up the profession of moving around and getting around. Yeah. But she felt compelled to help this poor man. She actually had compassion. He was so fallen to the flesh, so to speak, and she felt compassionate upon him. Says, "Let me help this man. He is just." Yeah, the story of Bilvamangal is beautiful. It really is wonderful. Okay, so we'll do text 28. Is that Okay, everybody's ready to roll? Who'd like to volunteer to read this verse?
I can read, Maharaj.
Okay.
Please, thank you.
In this way, you will be freed from bondage to work and its auspicious and inauspicious results. With your mind fixed on me in this principle of renunciation, you will be liberated and come to me.
Okay, beautiful. So when it is said here in this way simply means with this mentality, with this spirit, with this principle of surrender, one becomes free from bondage and free from auspicious and inauspicious results. In other words, good and bad karma are not going to be an issue for you. And so here it's reiterated once again, with your mind fixed on me, yuktatama, firmly fixed on me, and this principle of detachment, you are become liberated and free from bondage. Bandhana. Bandhana means bondage, and I think we discussed that before too. The English word most likely comes from the Sanskrit. Though it comes up quite a few times, this word bondage. Yeah. All right. Any other comments, Prabhus? Well, just jumping a little ahead into the purport, Srila Prabhupada says this is what a sannyasi is. A sannyasi or a swami, which is not limited to male or female, is actually one who is detached, thinking about the pleasure of Krishna, the master of the senses. That's the spirit of sannyas. So sometimes people ask, can women be sannyasis? Well, culturally, it's not recommended because, well, for reasons that sannyasis are intentionally meant to roam around very freely and independently, and that's not advisable for a single woman for some obvious reasons. But it doesn't limit the woman from having the sannyas spirit, which is one of detachment or one of, let's say, commitment to the Lord, dependency on the Lord. So looking at this purport from 26 or 28, I'm sorry, Yukta Vairagya, it's a key word for us to grasp. Yukta Vairagya means the ultimate detachment. And it's Rupa Goswami who capitalized on this term, anasakta se vishayan, itaran upayunjata, nirbandha Krishna sambandhe, yuktam vairagyam uchate. Rupa Goswami is one of our greatest teachers, one of our greatest saints. He led the way in so many, let's say, practices of his. We're sometimes called the Rupa Nugas. That means we're followers of Rupa. And this is one of the major principles that he projected forward, that whatever skills you have, whatever talents you have, and even resources you have, somehow they dovetail them in Krishna's service. That's the real renounced person. Not he who lights no fire and performs no work. I got that last phrase from the Bhagavad Gita itself. Who is the person that lights no fire and performs no work? It's a sannyasi. Sannyasis usually don't get into rituals and like the Agnihotra, the fire ceremonies, or does puja. The sannyasi, that's why we say light no fire, or performs no work, doesn't carry on with a career. His career is behind him. He's already done that. He is moving around, not aimlessly, with absolute purpose, and depending on Krishna, at the mercy of the weather, the sun, the rain, the people, what is provided along the trail. That's the mood of a sannyasi. So that you can be a sannyas before you're a sannyas, if you so choose to. My experiences in the movement, I haven't seen too many sannyasis, not too many people turn to that. or take that vow of that ordination. But in spirit, we see a lot of people are in fact adapting to this yukta vairagya idea. Vairagya means detachment. And then yukta refers to show your detachment by whatever, let's say, assets you have, whatever talents you have, use them in the service of the Lord. In service of the Lord. Hallelujah. Hare Krishna. Any questions? Okay, the next shloka is also really important. It's another one to memorize. And it tells us a lot about the nature of Krishna, his personality. And it's a very admirable one. Can somebody read this verse, please, for us?
I can do.
Okay.
You want the Sanskrit also? Samoham sarvabhuteshu name dveshyosti na priyaha ye bhajanti mam bhaktya maite teshu chapyaham. I envy no one, nor I am partial to anyone. I am equal to all. But whoever renders service unto me in devotion is a friend, is in me, and I am also a friend to him.
Thank you very much for reading that. Is there anybody who would like to make a comment on this? Krishna's character, which is capsulized in this verse. Any volunteers? Anybody? I don't care if you're a fairly newcomer. It's totally admirable what Krishna is saying here about himself.
Maharaj.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Bhoji.
Okay.
I think here it is. They're talking about Krishna's Nirgun Sarup, where he is Nirgun and he is equal to all.
Okay, he's equal to all. That could be a little misleading. I mean, equal to all meaning in which sense? Can you elaborate a little bit?
Like he is Nirgun. So
Yeah.
in the Nirgun Roop, he doesn't bias towards anyone. And
okay, yeah, sure. Yeah, that's right. He opens himself up to the world and says, all you jiva souls, all you spiritual beings, I'm open to give you, to be very, I'm there for your mercy, which I will distribute to all equally. And he doesn't show partiality. That's right. So I think it's a real strong point in his character that he doesn't show favoritism. However, the verses, it might seem like there's a dichotomy here. Because the first part says, everyone's okay, I'm cool with everybody. But, always when we look at but, there's a clause, and the clause says, but somebody who's coming to me with devotion, they're giving special attention. What am I supposed to do? I can't ignore that person, And it's just like if you're a teacher, you're in a classroom, and everyone's listening, but one student puts their hand up and say, excuse me, I want a clarification. And the teacher will give a little special attention to that person because the person is asking for a little extra help, a little extra guidance. It's not, let's say, a criticism on Krishna's character to give that person a chance. The person has raised this individual's hand and said, I really want clarify something for me, please. And so Krishna gives the time. And I think we gave this example before that, say in your local, like recently what happened in Kolkata, our temple caught on fire. So people who hear about it, oh, is everybody okay? There's a few things that come to mind, I hope the deities are okay. I hope the building's okay. I hope the people are okay, the priests and the priestesses, whatever. And my my spouse went there for darshan, like the first thing you're going to be thinking is that the person who's closest to you. And that's not a criticism. You know, everyone's important. Or if the schoolhouse is on fire and you hear about it, you know, the fire brigade gets over there and everyone's panicking and going out there. Are my kids okay? There's a school full of 500 kids. And in your mind, is my kid okay? Right? That is a natural, organic response. So as far as Krishna is concerned, all the jiva souls, all the atmas are extensions of himself. They're all his sons and daughters. When it comes to those who are especially leaning towards him, calling his name, said, oh, okay, that his ears are led there and we'll make that little extra effort. So it can't be a criticism towards his character. Would you all agree?
Yes.
It's okay.
So,
All right.
so Maharaj, I have a comment on that.
Please.
So in the family, if you have more than one child,
Yeah.
There is one child is always, youngest one is always favorable because he's so attached. So it's a natural quality of the people.
Well, the youngest one.
Same quality. The same quality I have seen because we are part and parcel of Krishna, and we have the same quality as what Krishna has got. So I just extending the same logic, it becomes meaningful for Krishna to have this quality. It's just my observation.
Very nice conclusion. And the story of Ajamil in Canto 6 of the Bhagavatam we hear of the details of his family. He had 10 children, and the youngest one he was thinking of when he was dying. Why? Because that child is the most dependent on him. That's the child that deserves, most concern. And so that's how it went. And his son happened to be named Narayan. And so he was thinking about his youngest son. Oh, I don't want to be separated from my young son. Narayan, he needs me. He's so dependent on me. So he kept chanting his name. And because he chanted the name of God, his son's name happened to be the name of God. Therefore, he got protected from the intimidating Yamadutas. So that's the thing. And I would say that this is another verse which we should really embrace and memorize. I know I'm putting a lot on you. I just want to say chapter 9 is full of jam-packed bhakti, saturated, juicy shlokas, And this is another one that we can see where he's. Yes.
Can we apply the Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva to this verse?
Absolutely. Why not? Just to clarify, Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva means that God is open to everybody, but then he will individually select some people and pull them apart, pluck them out even, and say, well, you're very dependent on me, and I have to give you my shelter. So in this way, there's a oneness, but individuality is also established. Yeah. Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva philosophy, inconceivable, simultaneously one but different. A perfect philosophy propounded by Sri Chaitanya. That's great. Yep.
So we can say that there is a transcendental contradiction.
You can put it like that. Devotees have been able to accommodate contradictions, apparent contradictions. But I would say would underscore apparent. Apparent meaning that it's not really so. It's just a natural, flow or, attraction to go to those that feel that dependency. So if you want to take it to that extent, it's some kind of transcendental contradiction, if you like. Yeah, not a problem. I mean, Krishna, the story in the Mahabharata goes that Krishna's, involved in the fight. He said, I will not take up any arms. And he made that commitment. And when Krishna makes a promise, it's taken very seriously by everybody. But when then he saw that Arjuna was in danger, that Bhishma was ready to just release an arrow on Arjuna when Arjuna was not looking, Krishna was panicking, and he ran over. He ran over to protect his devotee from being harmed. So there's two policies there. I will see that I will not take up any arms in this battlefield. But he took up the wheel and he was going to hurl it at Bhishma Dev. And it was Arjuna who said, you promised. You wouldn't do this. So you see how Krishna acts very impulsively towards his devotee. And we know how much he loved Bhishma and he loved Arjuna too, but he didn't want to see, one devotee canceling out another one in the form of death. This is where we fine tune the character of Krishna, isn't it? It's we certainly have to reflect on these things about how Krishna is. And when there are, you make a promise, just like say, I guess one example would be when you're in the church, the priest is honoring sanctuary, but somebody confesses, I murdered the mayor, and he's supposed to keep it confidential. And then the priest is being investigated. Do you know who murdered the mayor? So what's he gonna do, right? He has to keep it confidential.
Maharaj?
Yeah.
I have something to maybe add in on this one. I was listening to...
Can you speak up a little bit, Prabhu?
Yeah, I was listening to a Prabhu's lecture on this verse and about the dichotomy. He was saying that a lot of times we look at Krishna with our own rules and conceptions, and he's above and beyond all these rules that we have for him, that he cannot say something different from what he said before. Those kind of things, He can just do and say whatever he wants, and because he is not bound by our perceptions and rules. What I would like you to comment a little bit more on that.
Well, I can appreciate what you're saying, but these were policies he established himself. He said, he says, my devotee will not perish. And then he said, I will not take up any arms. And yet he did so, apparently breaking his own, let's say, commitment, his own vow, because of a higher purpose. This is the whole thing you have to go, but you have to see what is the higher purpose. And Srila Prabhupada gives some nice examples about that, higher purposes. So these are self-imposed vows that Krishna put on himself. And sometimes you have to weigh the scale and see, well, which is the more important of the two. Even Arjuna was put through difficulty. And when being trained as a warrior, think, I have to protect my family. But then part of his family, some of the elders, they were threatening his own life, and he's thinking, Krishna's telling him, go and take up arms against that family. And it didn't seem right to him. He was arguing with Krishna about this, right? That according to these moral Kshatriya codes, I should not be shooting arrows at Bhishma, at Drona, my teacher, etc., etc. But then Krishna offered him a higher purpose. So you really have to weigh the scales on these types of matters. Fortunately, most of us are not put into the ring of fire like Arjuna was put in. but we do have to make decisions sometimes. And they're hair-raising decisions sometimes. So if we cultivate our Krishna consciousness very finely, then we'll be able to make good decisions on the spot, which is oftentimes what's necessary on the spot. Okay, life is complicated. That's the point. It's not easy. And rules are in place, vows are made to protect people, right? That's what they're ultimately meant for. But what if in some cases the rules or the policies aren't protecting anymore? Then you have to reanalyze the whole thing. So we have our complex brains. We have to put them into functioning mode. Is that okay? Okay, so then shall we go to the next one? Another important one. Oh my God. Got to memorize this one too. This next shloka has much to do with our character. This addresses our character. I remember I was a new devotee my first year, summer of '73. I was lying down in the brahmachari ashram where I was just struggling to get a little rest. And one devotee was not restful. He was learning a shloka, and it was this one. Abhichit sudaracharo, bhajani mam ananyabhak, sadhu reva samantavya, samyag vyavasito isaha. Okay, let's look at this. Who would like to read this first? I noticed Pradyumna is on with us. Pradyumna, all the way from Montreal. How are you? Oh, he's frozen. Oh,
Hare Krishna, I'm doing great. Thanks.
Oh, good. Can you read this first for us?
I'm here.
9:30. Okay.
Yeah, I can read that.
All right. I knew you.
Yeah, I knew you would ask me. Even if one commits the most abominable action, if he's engaged in devotional service, he's to be considered saintly because he's properly situated in his determination.
Okay, great. So now this is very pertinent, and probably we're going to rest with this verse. We'll talk a little bit about it, and we'll end with this one. Now, why I say that this is relevant to all of us is because we're talking about somebody who slips, makes a little bit of a hiccup in their devotional service, and which happens. People oftentimes do this, and they have a little hard time. They enter into a weak phase, or it's like a dark moment that they go through. And so therefore it is said, even if you do some abomination, if you rectify yourself, you are forgiven. And we can all understand human nature. Each and every one of us has weak moments. So thank God when you're in the right company, you're reminded, okay, let's get back on track. You're off track, let's get back on track. That's all it is. I remember I was in Mayapur. I was with Veda Vyas from Montreal, and we were walking along, and there was this horse with a tanga, and he was carrying grains. And the farmer, the owner, he was having the horse move along. So our elephant, Gulab Kali, was walking towards the horse, and the elephant swung like this, was intimidating the horse. So the horse was shocked because the animal's much bigger, and he toppled over. There's this road, what is it, the Bhaktivedanta Marg or Bhakti, right? And it's like a build-up area, and then you have the paved road. So the the horse fell to the side and the wagon fell onto the horse. And then the bags of grain were all over the place. And Vedavyas and I we were right there, you know. And the elephant went on its way. And so we decided to help the guy, the farmer, to get the horse back up on its feet. There were things that I remember the cart was on him, part of the cart was on. And so he was struggling. And, you know, you can imagine a horse being feisty and going like this, not understanding that, hey, we're just trying to help you out. We could have been clobbered, you know. So if you have fallen, get back up. Anybody who's from Canada knows you slip on the ice. What do? Just slide there and just say, oh, I fell. Oh, well, you know, you just pick yourself back up. That's what you do, you know. And so this is what happens in devotional service sometimes. Should we look at some people shamefully? Should we look at somebody who's made a mistake and shun them? No, we should never do that. And especially when we see that that individual is making an effort to pick himself or herself back up. I mean, well, that's what we're there for. That's our job, you know, to encourage, to pick up people. And we should not shun. We should not start a big gossip rumor that goes around all over the universe. Oh, did you hear that so-and-so did this and that and this and that and this and that? No, that's not going to help the individual. That will do nothing but discourage the person. Say, I'm getting away from this community. They have no compassion. They have no love, right? So from this verse, we should understand that a person is to be forgiven and considered saintly because he is properly situated in his determination. What does it mean? Determination, determined to get back up on your feet again. Vyavasita, that Sanskrit word, and we've come upon it many, many times. So have compassion, show you have a heart, and don't shun them. I mean, I saw a documentary about, like, in the Amish community, the shunning, it was called. It was a documentary. And it kind of highlighted that principle. Okay, that family, they went astray, and we will shun them. So that was, some people that were part of the community were disturbed about being gossiped on and all these things. And I would say maybe the show was a little bit biased because my experience with the Amish and the Mennonites, they're actually very wonderful people. But when you are raised in a conservative environment, that tendency is very strong to be bigoted, to be biased, and to judge, be very judgmental. Is that not a fact? It's a fact. So if we see that someone's having a little bit of a rough time in their devotional endeavors, don't make it worse for them. They're already struggling. So win them over with your friendship and say, it's okay, don't worry. The flesh is weak, or whatever you might want to say, whatever is the problem. I know you have this issue, that the habit from the past, but, you know, just reach out to us. You know, you can count on us whenever you have the weakness. So if you see someone is sincerely trying, then you have an obligation to help that person. You must. It's your job. It's your duty. Otherwise, you're much worse than the person who got weak. You have become weak then. Any comments on that?
Usually what happens, Maharaj, is that when somebody like an ISKCON was in a very high position and then
Yes.
some weaknesses have been discovered by that person and they want to hide it, you know, they don't want to really come out to the open with it. It makes it worse for this person, and the
Yes.
repercussions are really big. I mean, I saw my first guru leave in such a dramatic, kind of shameful way, You know, it was just so
Yes.
bad how he was treated, and he was also hiding it, and so it was just a very bad kind of circle he was in, and
Yes. It's a really,
sad, you know.
yes. It's really good topic. Haribol Murari Gupta, how are you? Good to see you. Good to see you. It's a tough one. It's a really tough one. And sometimes when you're at the top, on the spiritual top, you're up so high, you don't have much connection with people. You're on a high horse, we sometimes say. It's very, very difficult. And the problem is that if you are hiding the truth or living in denial and saying bluntly, no, I didn't do it when you did, that shows a sign of not being sincere. And it looks to me like the person has to be caught. You know, somebody has to catch him on camera. Unfortunately, it still has some lessons to learn. But one of the most, let's say, humbling experiences when you are caught doing something and you admit to it, yeah, I did it. It's a problem for me. I made a mistake. It was wrong. It was absolutely wrong. But please accept me. The most important, valuable thing for me is to be part of this family, part of this community. And I'm begging that Krishna will not reject me and that you all will not reject me. So how will, when someone comes with that kind of an appeal, do you think Krishna would not give that person a second chance, third chance even? So you definitely don't want to be a good actor and put on a good show, you know, and roll out your tears. It has to really come from the heart. Because what we're doing in bhakti, in this tradition, this culture, is we're really playing big with the heart, right? It's not just intellectualizing. We can do that with the Gita. Oh, you can just do your philosophical speculation like crazy with this book. But it's really more about giving in, you know, submission, surrendering to Krishna, and going down on your knees, you know, and taking that humble position. Trinadapi samichena, Tororapi sahishnana, Amanina manadena, Kirtaniya sadahari. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, think oneself lower than the straw on the street. Take a humble position. Hare Krishna.
Maharaj,
Yes.
I think as a community, this verse alone, we have a lot of work to do.
Oh, yeah. You're absolutely right. Yeah. You hit the nail on the head. Okay. Well, we're almost, we're at 6 o'clock. Can I read to you my latest poem?
Yes.
It's short. It's about Hanuman. And Hanuman's birthday was last Monday. Are there any Hanuman fans here?
Woohoo!
Yes.
Woohoo!
Everybody loves him. Nobody can fault him. Nobody can. Yeah. So here we're just calling it That's Hanuman. He is the power of devotion, whether still or in motion. Assistant to Sri Ram and his brother Lakshman. A warrior up to serve. A person of solid nerve and of bodily strength. He would go to any length to recover Ram's princess, circumstantially in distress. He came to her in small size, to take her back, no compromise. But she held to her principle, though suggestion was irresistible. Ram was her only man to touch. Hanuman understood very much. Being a warrior, also a monk, his values could never ever be sunk. Only compelled to take her back to him, where Ram stood at the ocean's rim. At first, she took him as adversary. A monkey to trust is so contrary. On presenting Ram's ring token, that gesture said more than anything spoken. The celibate warrior soared back to Ram and told of her waiting for him to come. With club in hand, the primate was up to attack, rascal Ravan being doomed for a broken back. To the one we love, everyone's man, in part an ape. That's henna man. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj. Maharaj,
Thank you.
Wonderful, Maharaj.
Nice.
Maharaj,
Yes, Maharaj.
all the points you have written, is there a way that you're going to compile it someday into a book or something like that?
Yes, we're piling them together and compiling. Yeah, the pile will come. Yes, we'll get it going. No problem. So I want to thank everybody for being on board. And it's so, I'd like to thank Pradyumna for joining us this time around. And Anurag, it's also good to see you again. And of course, Murari Gupta. Wow, Haribol, my God. Yeah.
Is that the Murari Gupta? Maharaj, is that the Murari Gupta, the Cuban?
Yeah, that's the rascal.
Can we want to see him. We want to see him. Oh,
We got Radha Madhava from Calgary. Jai,
all right.
Rasaraj. Thank you, everyone. Arjun.
Hare
Basanta,
Krishna,
thank you for
Maharaj.
being on board. And I
Hare
did see
Krishna.
Andy earlier on. Andy, bless you, bless you. Yeah, that's it. Good.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, I want to introduce Vignesh Prabhu and Rohini Mataji.
Okay, all
They are
right.
in the team. Also Guna Prabhu. I think Guna Prabhu is not there today, but
Okay.
they also join every week for the class.
Okay, well, super. I'm so happy about the turnout. Thank you very much, Prabhus. And until next week, be good and don't be bad. Take shelter from
Hare Krishna.
Shamaka
Hare
Nada.
Krishna.
Stay safe. Stay safe.
Krishna. Thank you, Maharaj.
Vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Jai Haribol. Call me anyone if you need me. I'm there for you. Haribol.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Murari Gupta. Okay, it might be. Okay.